Thunder Strikes?
Yes.
Okay, you are there. Good. You have got one deep voice, don't you?
Yeah, that's a product of about 20 years in the Marine Corps.
The Marines do that to you, huh?
Yeah, especially when you become a gunnery sergeant and a drill instructor and those kind of things, and you're booming your voice out at the full volume, you know what I mean, out on the grinder, and it definitely takes your voice.
Uh-huh, and I suspect a lot of it's natural. All right, what you're telling us right now, I presume, is it Cherokee prophecy? These periods of time that we're discussing?
It's actually twisted hair prophecy.
Twisted hair prophecy.
See, if you were to take, let's say you were Cheyenne, I was Cherokee, other brothers and sisters were different tribes, and for whatever reason we realized that we had both the religion of our people, the spiritual way of our people, but it just didn't work. It didn't give us enough answers. It didn't give us enough connection to the mysteries and to the things that we wanted to know in the realms of knowledge. So we would go and travel. We'd go travel with different tribes. We'd travel to talk to different people. Mm-hmm. And in doing so, we began to realize that, look, there was a lot more than one way to skin a cat here. There was a connecting link to the universe here that different people chose to approach in different ways. And so consequently, we would start looking for truth. We'd look for truth that works. And these gentlemen, these women, gradually started to meet each other, and they formed into what was called the Rattlesnake School. And interesting enough, they say the roots go all the way back to a planet called Osiria Canuia in the Canis Major constellation, and the dog star Sirius was their grandfather's son. And that they came here approximately 172,000 years ago, bringing with them an ark of the crystal skulls. And that's where the sum total of knowledge of the 11 planets with human life in our solar system, or our galaxy, we don't even have the right words for it, our universe. And with them, about 22,000 years ago, Mr. Bell, they wrote a prophecy called the Rainbow Bridge Prophecy. And it speaks of 8 horses in a race, the horse symbolizing the carrying or the transportation of the philosophies and the belief systems and the core beliefs of a people. And that these horses were running, and they're running towards the date at which all the Native American Turtle Island people shut off their calendar, which is 2012.
That's the Mayan. That's the Mayan calendar.
Yes, sir.
End of the Mayan calendar.
Absolutely. And there's a reason why they shut it off on August 17th, 2012.
Why? What is this?
Because they see that we will develop into full human beings, humanity, humans in unity. And we will be teaching one another, sharing with one another, caring with one another, healing one another, loving one another, with individual autonomous freedom. But our number one enemy is ignorance, superstition, slavery, dogma, the dark side.
The modern day is what you're talking about. And you say that this quickening, interesting choice of terms, selection of terms, began, did you say 2000?
Actually, 2001.
2001.
It actually started on midnight of 2001. That was
that sounds just about right, actually. As I look at events that have occurred, it seems just exactly right that we took a little bit of a quantum leap at that point, mm-hmm. and events have been certainly quickening.
And see, I think that from 1980 to 2000, when we were in the awakening, you take this chronic stress fatigue syndrome malady that's going around. That was almost non-existent until approximately 83, 84, somewhere in there, when they first started diagnosing different cases. And that's right in the first 4 years of the awakening. And the awakening was moving over from one cycle, one pattern, one timing of life experience called karma, for lack of a better term. We call it Shilimata, but let's just say karma because that's kind of a universal word. And stepped over into Dharma, or what we call Shilamadahe. See? And when we did that, the speed of life, the actual circle of life, which is our people say we go around the wheel of life once every, twice every 3 years. Well, in Dharma, we go around that same life experience 13 times every 3 years. And all of a sudden, the speed, the pace, the timing. I mean, there's not a person I talk to that doesn't talk about how it just seems like time is moving so much faster. Mm-hmm. And that is indeed true. Humans' metabolism is speeding up. And that's why we're seeing more and more and more prevalence of the shadow people.
You mean the faster our metabolism becomes, the faster we're moving in some sort of spiritual sense, the more we're going to see of them? Is that true?
Absolutely. Because in essence, if you take, every time we have a negative thought, every time we have a guilt, blame, shame, fear, anger, resentment, jealousy, envy, greed, possessiveness, insecurity, resentment, we're projecting that energetic out of our luminosity, out of our soul being, our spirit, if you want to call it that, and into the ethers, into the universe.
So then you're basically, I think, saying that our negative emotions are what? Creating the shadow people? Feeding the shadow people?
They're completing the shadow people because they're basically inorganic beings.
They're completing the shadow people.
Yes, they're inorganic beings.
The implication of that would be, though, that there's some force that's already in existence that we're completing with these negative emotions, but that there's some form there prior to our, what's the right word, completing its existence.
I would say that what we're doing is we're assembling them into our world of perceptual reality because they exist in a parallel dimension. Within the 7 streams of reality, the 7 streams or 7 dimensions of reality, there are actually 72 parallel dimensions to either side that the Zero Chiefs discovered. And these include your 5th dimension when you're dreaming at night. And every night when you dream, you demonstrate what our people call the Laren, the energy-sensitive perceptions of awareness. You go to heightened awareness instead of normal awareness.
So you may be at your most sensitive
yes.
when you're asleep.
Absolutely.
Most subject to perhaps being able to see these beings.
Correct.
Are they beings, by the way? Is that?
We call them inorganic beings.
Inorganic.
The definition given in 1153 BC by the major Zero Chiefs that really started noticing the phenomenon in the young.
Inorganic
beings, and that they appear because they feed in a vampiristic sense. They feed off of our emotional chaos, our emotional discharge of energy.
So then you will excuse me if I get a little crude for you. I'm not as eloquent as you, but basically, if you were to see a shadow person a little more than in peripheral vision, it would scare the
yes.
out of you, right?
For example,
you're suggesting it would feed on that fright.
Yes, it will. And see, if you know anything about animals, then I'm not Dr. Doolittle, but I definitely have learned to communicate with animals over my life because we call the animals sweet medicine. And because they have a natural harmony and a natural balance and alignment. And you don't see a dog going to a psychotherapist to learn why it's not a cat. I mean, a dog's a dog and a cat's a cat. Well, we are animals. We're 2-legged animals.
Sure.
But we have the potentiality to actually become a human being. And that's what we're in now. We're trying to learn to become human beings.
Are these inorganic beings sentient? In other words, are they conscious in the
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes?
You got to realize that almost every form of everything inside what we call the sacred laws of creation or the evolutionary laws is that all forms of all things are potentially transformable into all forms of all other things. And energy once created cannot be destroyed. It can simply be altered in the essence of its energy expression, its energy form. So these inorganic beings are parallel dimensional beings, is the best way to refer to them, that are pulled into our dimension, especially through the dream time, and engage and interact with us. The reason they occur out of the peripheral vision is because we need to pick them up with our other eyes. We have 10 eyes. We have 5 ears. We're much more complex than medical science recognizes. We've even got a 3rd genetic spiral that they're just now playing with called the ETA, the evolutionary transformational agent. We're a luminous being, and we have a tremendous capability of perception. The entire path and the things I study with the
slow up again. Slow up again.
Mm-hmm.
I need to understand this. So I believe that you are saying that we're not really seeing these beings with our eyes. We're not seeing them...
Not with your normal awareness eye.
Right. That we're seeing them with a, lack of a better phrase, a psychic eye, or an eye that is now, because the metabolism is moving faster, it's just, it's the mind seeing it. I haven't quite put this together yet.
I can make it simple. Is it all right if I call you Art? I don't ever transcend on somebody. I stay in proper respect and gender and say Mr. Bell.
Well, for the purposes of doing this tonight, can I call you Thunder?
Yes.
Okay.
Either that or just Gunny, because that's what I went by for so many years. Either one works fine.
Or I guess I could call you Strikes, but that doesn't sound right.
Right.
Thunder
and everybody calls me either Thunder or Gunny, those that really know me closely and intimately.
Gunny, huh? All right.
If I said to you that you not only have your left and your right eye, your normal awareness eye, but everyone's very aware of the third eye, which is in the forehead. But when you're asleep and dreaming at night, Art, do you not see, and in fact, we describe dream time as rapid eye movement. Your eyes are moving, but your eyelids are closed. So how is it possible? What are you seeing with? Well, that's the fifth eye, which approximately is in the top of the soft spot of a baby's head when it's born.
Is it really?
Yes, that's your dream eye. All right? You also have a fourth eye, which is behind the base of the medulla oblongata, which is at the base of the spine, and that's your animal eye. That's when your hair stands up in the back of your head when you have a reality sense of danger.
I've been there, done that.
You bet. And we also have an eye in the palm of each hand, which has been depicted in many, many, many magical and spiritual texts. We also have an eye in the sole of both feet. And most importantly, we have our universal eye, which is in our navel, our womb.
Really?
And so we have 10 eyes, and we have 5 ears. We have an internal ear that hears when we're in the dream time. And by the way, dream time is 144 to 1 to our time, to third-dimensional time. If you put a person in dream research, like at Duke University, you measure a dream during rapid eye movement. We know they're dreaming. We record it on all the machines. We wake them up, and they tell us an event that took 2 weeks of time transition in their dream space.
Thunder, I've got emails from, for example, where not just one person, but as many as 3 or more saw the same shadow person doing the same thing.
Actions.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely correct.
Really?
Because, see, I'm sure you're aware you've had Rupert Sheldrake on, and he's referred to me in some of his books. Rupert knows the morphogenetic field theory, and I think it's one of the most brilliant theories to...
Were the shadow people, Thunder, ever alive? Were they living human beings? That's
not in our world in this third dimension as we know it. They've always been present in our dream time, in fifth dimension. They've always been present in the 3 parallel dimensions to the right and to the left of our awareness.
You seem to be suggesting that they are vampires. They're emotional.
I would say they are energy, and we call energy Orendi, to cover all forms of energy. They are Orendi vampires.
Oh. So there's nothing particularly positive from our point of view about their presence. Is that right?
I don't like to use positive and negative, but I will use good and evil.
Well, if they're feeding on the negative emotions, whatever negative emotion might be present, that suggests to the average person that if they're seeing them, probably that's not such a good thing, because there must be a lot of negative emotions flying about, right?
That's correct, but now let's take it another line of premise, that if I'm getting rid of and giving away my negativity, and it can be absorbed very much like a maggot, which is kind of revolting and repulsive to some people, you realize that you could put a maggot inside someone's ear that's got a huge abscess. It will lead away all the rotten flesh and not touch the actual living, vital tissue of the eardrum. You take them out, and their grandmother, it's little surgeons. So are they dark? Yes, because they feed off of that energy. Are they necessarily a part of evil? It takes a wide stretch of the imagination and a tremendous amount of fear to see them that way. You can learn.
I can muster up that much fear, no problem.
Yes. I
mean, when you see a dark being and you can't account for his presence, it's not that hard to be that afraid. I mean, a lot of the people that have written me emails on this subject,
they're terrified.
Well, look, some of them have been in tears, writing in tears, because they've seen these beings all their life. Nobody ever said a word about them. All of a sudden on my program, here we are talking about them. They were literally in tears because they've been holding on to this.
And thinking they're crazy.
All their life. Well, yeah, I guess, maybe. Thinking they're crazy, scared to talk to anybody else about it, scared to even admit it to their loved ones.
Well, let's deal with one thing, the fear. Fear is nothing, Art, but the unknown. And it never will be anything but the unknown. It always has been the unknown, and there's only one solution to the problem of the unknown: make it known as quickly as possible. So,
good with that.
Fear is a natural state of the human because of the molding, the sculpting, the armoring of the image makers and the people that are significant, reflections to us. And we develop fears that are frequently totally ungrounded. And these inorganic beings, these shadow entities or beings, which we call shadow people because it's the closest thing in our normal awareness that we can identify with.
Sure.
Their truth is they're a little more like small human sort of bat-like figures. The description of the cloak that they see, or the shroud. One person was very tuned in. They definitely have red eyes.
Why don't you make... Yeah, red eyes, great. Why don't you make the leap to evil? I mean, if their food and the engine that makes them more visible is our own fear and negative emotions, then why not make the leap to evil? You wouldn't think they'd be up to any good collecting all those things.
Well, ask anyone that's dealt with them. Have they hurt them? Have they attacked them in any way? You'll find out that they have caused themselves to hurt themselves. I mean, it's like a buddy I had in Vietnam that was going off into the bushes to, do his number, and a tiger came up on him. That will definitely shift your perceptual view of reality.
That should have popped the whole shadow family right into the jungle, right then and there.
And so, yes, but if you really look at it, they can be evil if you project your evil far enough.
All right.
Take these kids going off in school.
All right, Thunder. I want to get to that. Thunder, hold.
Site that feeds off of another animal. But if you look at, for example, any parasitic relationship, the host actually experiences some gain, but it's not enough to make up for the fact that the parasite will eventually take their entire energy. And that's what we're dealing with in this quickening. As our metabolism speeds up, they become more present in our assembling of our world of a reality from how we're choosing to perceive our reality. And as we kick in these other eyes, if you were to imagine a luminous egg, you've got an elliptical surface, do you not?
Yes.
Due to refraction of light coming from both inside you at what's called your assemblage point, outside your luminosity, you'll pick it up through the third eye, or the fifth eye, which are both very, very tuned in and very sensitive to spiritual essence or presence of energies and entities and vibrations and spirits, both incarnate and disincarnate, that we normally do not see at what's called normal awareness. Therefore, the more we are in our dark side, the more we're dancing with the dark horse of evil, the more they're going to feed until they become strong enough to start appearing in our actual third-dimensional world with
straight-on vision.
Straight-on
vision. That's what we'll say. Now, I want to read you something. This just came in by fax from, it's from Michael Harns, Harson's Island, Michigan, is it? Harson's Island, I guess, Michigan. I had always thought, Art, I could see something moving past my peripheral vision at my parents' home. I thought it was lights from the road some 600 feet behind the home. At times I thought I was seeing a misty gray image of an elderly woman. But then one night, my lab, his dog, was laying at my side and began a slow, guttural growl. Rising and moving toward the windows, I thought he was looking at himself, as a reflection. His growl became louder and stronger as he would lunge forward and draw back. This went on for about 3 minutes as I tried to stop him, lunging forward. He got very loud and then made a final lunge and stopped instantly. After stopping, he then went up to the couch that was to the left of the window and with a very cautious step smelled the seat cushion. This blew me away and gave me justification for the things I thought I saw time after time. I've never felt the feeling again. My dog also ceased that behavior. I haven't always had a dog. He was a stray I'd taken in. Most of my visions were pre-pet. So my question, Thunder, is are these things that cats, dogs, other animals have been seeing for a long time?
They have always been aware of their presence. And anyone that has a cat, they don't like cats. And so generally the cat will spot them. They don't want to be spotted. And consequently, the minute the cat tunes in, and if you've seen your cat walk across and all of a sudden it's very obvious he's going on his little route, you know how nonchalant cats can be.
Oh, yes.
And they stop, and all of a sudden they very deliberately turn their head. You can bet your booty that they're focusing on an inorganic being.
Well, I do bet on that because I just had a big incident with one of my cats. I have 3. And the veterinarian that was top-notch veterinarian that we took this cat to, she said, cats have a very fast metabolism.
Totally fast.
Cats have, in fact, their system is so different from other mammals on the earth that it's almost like magic. These are the vet's words.
They are magical.
It's magical. And she said it's not so easy to treat them, and you just never know what's going to happen. They're really in a class all by themselves.
Totally. And see, one of our teachings, Art, is that we're evolving to the human stage where our metabolism will start to speed up to the point of what you could almost call formlessness. If I said that Jesus' resurrection was really his virgin birth, and that was the moment that he turned formless, came back in an appearance that Simon Peter would recognize and say, touch me as you knew me, I am as you knew me. But the virgin birth, that's resurrection, that's formlessness. The ability to assemble into your luminous egg or cocoon the physical body that would normally appear through the birth cycle in your next incarnation. We have that kind of power. And I just took a little jump out there maybe on a sidetrack, and I apologize for that. But cats and a cat-like mind and a cat-like body is where we're supposed to be. So
it's where you're saying it's where we're going.
Yes.
So we might as well get used to it because we're going to be seeing more and more and more of these shadow people until what?
And
one day they simply we're all part of one reality?
Yes. And we're going to be seeing other entities. Much of this UFO, the little gray people and the lizard people and so forth, they come from a dimensional planet that, if you want to look at it as the Great Spirit's grand design, was the experimental phase. I mean, you know, our people don't approach the symbolism of a god. We approach it as the everything, the universe, the sacred creation, the Great Spirit.
Well, if the shadow people feed off negative energy,
yes,
why are so many children that you wouldn't think would have that much negative energy?
Well, what do you say about a child that's 8 years old that kills his parents with a butcher knife? What about these kids going off in school and shooting each other, Art? We have a lot of evil in the world.
Yeah, that's...
and even in the young.
Yeah, that's...
If the only way they can step into Dharma is to come in and express that in one final blasphemous, riot down the runway of life, then they're going to. And of course, that just draws this energy into a stronger and stronger morphogenetic field. And of course, that's why we want to look at the gold horse instead of the dark horse and start figuring out how to deal with our own dark side, our own well, even Jung referred to it as the shadow. And start approaching it from a place of understanding we can get rid of our dark side by the way in which we live our life in relationship to other human beings. And that's what we're here for. This is a laboratory. This is a university. And I think we're here to grow and learn, and we're here to learn how to live together. And I'm not talking about integration. I'm talking about basically being able to live together in a gathering together circle in which we are proud of the differences. But the differences don't produce wars.
Richard in Berkeley, California, saying, your guest is describing the published works of Carlos Castaneda. Everything from the term inorganic being to the luminous ball of light.
That is correct. Carlos also studied with Don Juan, who is another real good friend of Don Gennaro's, and that's not neither one of them's real name.
And you studied with?
Tom Wilson, which is his real name, and Jack Shockley was the real name for Don Juan. And I can prove it. But
that's fine. How should we accept the presence of these shadow people? If not fear, then how should we react to them? If we begin seeing them, what does it mean for us personally, and how should we react?
I think the first thing is that you should become aware. Awareness is a key to knowledge and enlightenment. And so first you need to become aware of everything that's in your environment. You need to realize there's a lot more there than you normally perceive. Once you do, deal with your own dark side. Where are you going into negativity? Life is a choice. It's always been a choice. It'll always be a choice. The one thing that the human being can change in the world by himself is his attitude and his approach. Your attitude is your concept, your mindset to reality. You can change.
First-time callers, area code 775-727-1222.
Negativity.
Well,
it's like a little boy in a room and
let's rephrase that and let's just say not to be such a butthead.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yeah, I apologize for that.
No, that's all right. Listen, there are plenty of people who fit squarely or roundly, if you will, into that category. Believe me.
Yeah.
But I just thought I'd save the children or something. Yeah. I don't know. I don't even know why. It's late at night. They can handle the language.
Right. And see,
here's what I'm worried. Here's what I'm worried about, Thunder. When I look around me and I look at what's going on, we're speeding up all right.
Mm-hmm.
But the signs that I see around me are not that we're speeding in a positive direction.
I agree.
We're speeding straight to hell.
Yes.
That may be a little dramatic, but the environment around us is collapsing.
Mm-hmm.
Social civilization appears to be collapsing, as you just demonstrated with what a lot of children are doing now.
Right. Moral and ethical responsibility is collapsing.
All collapsing. All going in the wrong direction. The sun right now is really beginning to worry me a little bit. It's spitting at us like I've never seen it spit before. And by the way, the scientists have never seen it spit this way before either.
It's almost, a 68% increase in the solar flares in the last 3 years?
We're in a normal high, but we just had an event that, and by the way, Telstar 4 folks may have lost some transponders yesterday, or they may have gone to a backup satellite, and in fact the Dish Network lost some of their transponders. Because of solar stuff, I don't know. They won't say. I suspect. We just had another major X-flare, big mother of an X-flare. These things are coming at us anyway,
and they're speeding up.
All taken together, we're speeding all right, but I'm not so sure I like where we're going.
I would totally agree with that.
Look at the weather. Look at the weather.
And see, that's part of the red horse. The red horse is about weather. The white horse is about technology. The gold horse is about human-to-human interaction. And the gold horse is about spiritual, self-growth and development. And, we have to deal with all of those. And all of them are going faster and faster in the race. And right now, the dark horse is way out in front.
Well, what happens?
About 3 lengths.
What happens, Thunder, if the dark horse wins the race?
The end point of the dark horse prophecy is Civil War II in the Americas and World War III, when the land of the bear, which is considered to be Russia, the land of the weasel, which is the Middle East, and the land of the dragon, which is China, combined together as one allied unit against the land of the eagle and bring it down and rip its feathers from its existence.
That would be us, the eagle.
Yes, it would be. And look at what we're currently dealing with China. They're sitting in our back door in the Panama Canal. They have major control of 6 major harbors in the United States. When are we going to wake up? Our military has been downsized to the point where we couldn't even hold a strong DEFCON 2. If you're familiar with the DEFCON statuses, that means we could not launch what we had at the beginning of Pearl Harbor, and we were pretty weak then.
Well, you were in the service, what, career?
I started out that way, and then I got blown out of a helicopter in the Tet Offensive, and that sort of ended that.
Well, I was actually at Amarillo Air Force Base, and I picked up the red phone. We were a SAC base, and
right.
I picked up the red phone during the Cuban crisis and heard them announcing the rise in the DEFCON level.
Right.
I remember that.
That's something you remember vividly.
That was a hair-raising time, believe me.
Now, that's real fear.
Hair-raising. Yep, that's real fear, all right. And so the gray people, or the dark shadow people, must have been running around gathering strength like crazy. And every time, I suppose, a major event in time occurs, the assassination of a president of the United States, oh, my God, the outpouring of grief and fear and anger and negative emotions must just really pump these little inorganic things up.
It's like they run amok, very much like a cockroach or a rat will.
So the more we run amok, the more we feed them.
Correct. And that's why I had to get permission to speak about this. We're reaching the point of the quickening, and the quickening includes the quickening of both good and evil. Now it becomes a real full-out race. If you watch the horse race, you know the jockey always gives them the spurs and the whip and quirt, and they move them right to the finish line, that last, quarter length. And that's what we're doing. We're in the last decade, the last 10 years, which is called the quickening. So it's that race to that final point. And that was so completely in the arena of free choice, free will, that they didn't bother to extend the calendar past that point, because they said either we will become human beings gathered together in circles of unity, or we will create a civil war in the Americas and World War III, and who knows where it'll go from there.
Maybe nowhere.
Precisely. And see, that's why I get so adamantly upset at our legislators.
When you went to the elders to seek permission to talk about this tonight, what was in the Supreme Court, it would be the dissenting opinion. What was the dissenting side? Why did they feel perhaps the public shouldn't be told this?
The two dissenting votes out of the 8 were both saying that normally this would have been brought to the forefront in 2004. That the election at that time is a critical turning point as to whether we'll go really to the dark or to the light horse. And that by putting this out ahead of time, it can be a detrimental effect on those people who live in the prey victim syndrome world. And there's only 2 kinds of animals, no matter whether it's a 2-legged or 4-legged or winged or whatever, and that's predators and prey. The key is that you can be both a malevolent predator, a criminal, or if you're, for example, a law-abiding firearms owner, you can be a benevolent predator. So if a woman is being attacked, raped, and assaulted, that's violence, and she shoots a man with a .357 Magnum, or better yet, a .45 Colt, that's force. And force controls violence.
Yes.
And passivity breeds it. So the passivity that can be launched by people's helplessness or frustration to deal with these beings could be out of timing. But since it's such forefront issue, they said, okay, go for it. It would not be present if the collective weren't demanding it. And so the vote was 6-2.
So the hope is that by telling people what these inorganic beings are, that they will begin to modify their own behavior, slowing
gain some emotional balance and control. Stop projecting their pretense out to life and onto others. In other words, wake up and assume authority, take responsibility, and be accountable for your life as a choice.
Boy, that sure is easy to say
and difficult to do. I've spent my whole life trying to learn it, and I'm still getting, not too bad at it, but some days are better than other days.
That's for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Hold it right there. I'd like, and just before we go to the lines, I've got a question for you, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Should I understand these beings to be as we, many of us believe we have been, the creations of God, separate creations, should I imagine them to be here since the creation, since man has walked the earth? Have they always been here?
No, sir, they have not. And in fact, that's why they were first brought into awareness. If you look at what was going on in approximately the 1100s BC here in the Americas, and that's when we first began to see. Up to that point, there was very little tribal warfare. All right, very little. In fact,
so you're saying before that there were no shadow people?
There were no entities created out of our own energy field that began to take on their own consciousness or perceptual consciousness of reality.
All right.
Now they're consciously present. We created evil ourselves, interestingly.
We created evil ourselves. So they are a creation, but not of...
Not of God, not of the Great Spirit. We are determiners of energy.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
The mineral world's the holding world. The plant world gives. The animal world receives, and we're the determiners.
Do you, Thunder, happen to have a computer in the house?
Yes, I do.
So, in about 2 minutes, I'm informed by my webmaster that the first 3 or 4 drawings, that have been scanned that he considers interesting are going to be up there. Are you able to do that, or are you on the line that your computer would use to get on the Internet?
No, I can probably go into my computer, yes.
Uh-huh. Okay, for the rest of you, as a matter of fact... very soon now, we're going to have it up on the website. And what you do is you go to program, tonight's guest, scroll down to Thunder Strikes, and when Keith gets the drawings up there, in the next few minutes, we'll all be able to look together and see what they are. So you might have, if anybody's assisting you there, Thunder, you might have them get on my website and get ready. That's how you get there.
Go to your website and go to Thunder Strikes section.
Well, actually, to tonight's to program, and then tonight's guest info. Yes. That would be you, and then you'd see the name Thunder Strikes, and then when my webmaster gets them up there, in the next 10 minutes at least, we'll all be able to look together, and I'd be very curious what it is people have been seeing. In the meantime, I'd like to go to the phones. And I'm going to think about the fact that they're our creation. First-time caller line, you're on the air with Thunder Strikes. Hello?
Hello.
Hi.
This is Sarah from Modesto, California.
Welcome.
Hello. I'm a fairly new caller. I commend you, Art, on the great job you're doing. I really love your show.
Oh, thank you.
Actually, I have a question because I have quite a few things that do happen to me, but this is like only the second time I've heard about this, and I'm really curious as to whether this could be shadow people or ghosts that I'm experiencing, because I always just figured it was ghosts.
It might be hard to discern, yes.
Yes.
So what do you see?
Well, I haven't ever actually saw a person, but I do see outlines. I see a lot of movement, especially once it gets late at night and I'm on the computer. I see flashes of light by the corners of my eyes and shadows by the corners of my eyes.
They're moving?
Yes, definitely moving. And sometimes I'll think I see an outline, I'll turn, but it fades. So I've never seen...
Well, that's as classic as it gets. What do you think, Thunder?
I think what she's seeing is that they're both incarnate and disincarnate spirits, which you might call ghost, and then you're dealing with poltergeist, which are basically a phenomenon of an interesting phenomenon of the projection of adolescents just coming into the age of puberty. And I think what she's seeing is, let me ask you this. Melody was the name?
No, Sarah.
Oh, what was your name?
Sarah.
Sarah. Sarah, when you saw their appearance, did you see them to the right side or to the left side?
Oh, geez.
More friendly? And can you give a basic description of the thing you were doing at the time? What was the event that you were experiencing at the moment?
Oh, geez, I'm trying to think. I think I see them from both sides. I honestly haven't ever really paid attention to that, but a lot of times it just happens late at night when I'm sitting at the computer. I notice a lot when I'm sitting at the computer, and usually only at night, and a lot of times lately, just the past few nights actually, laying in bed, like I'll see little flashes out of the corner of my eye, and I look and nothing's there.
Those sound like the shadow beings or the shadow people.
Oh, no, I didn't want to hear that.
How old are you?
I'm 24.
24.
And, you know, if I could just ask a few other quick questions, occurrences. I mean, I've also, I don't know if this sounds strange at all, but I have felt breathing in my face before. It's been a couple years since this has happened.
Breathing in your face?
Yes. I have laid in bed and actually felt breathing in my face. It's only happened like 2 or 3 times, and it's been a couple years since it happened. And
okay, those are not the shadow beings.
That's not shadow beings.
What those are is that you've got to realize that ancestor spirit beings, loved ones that have crossed over to the other side, frequently come back, and because they assembled us into their world, and then they have left our world, but we still have them assembled there. It's our heart space. It's our connection to them.
Oh, wow.
And so we can feel that breath of life, which is why it's so critical when a newborn takes their first breath of life. That's when their luminosity lights up, shall we say.
Oh,
and so that's what you're experiencing there. It's the inorganic beings or the shadow people. They definitely are attracted to electromagnetic energies.
So in other words, when you're near a computer.
Computers, television sets.
Yep, well, monitors, sure. They're electromagnetic. It's all electromagnetic. Hun, we've got to leave. I'm sorry. We have now the first 4 drawings submitted by people who claim to have seen shadow people straight on. They're up on my screen right now. Oh, my. Oh, my. Now, these are people's drawings, of course, but wow. So, if I might ask, shadow...
I've got them here, Art.
Shadow... Oh, you've got them?
Yes.
Okay, there are...
The first one...
Yes?
That's not a shadow being. That's what's commonly referred to as a Manitou.
A Manitou?
A Manitou is an evil dark force energy whose presence becomes known because it's inside your lineage somewhere because of what your relationships. I've done many exorcisms and many banishings of these critters.
This thing doesn't look good at all.
No, it doesn't. And it's definitely malevolent, and it can be taken away with a good shamanic cleansing. It is absolutely terrified of sage, cedar, sweetgrass, lavender. The smell of those 4 herbs mixed together, equal proportions, drives it batty. It'll leave. The other thing that keeps it away is crystals. The frequency of crystals makes it very disruptive. This is a being that you need to drive out of your reality.
I'm with that. All right, the next one.
Okay, I'm scrolling down to the next one, and the next one is much more typical of those energies and entities that are there due to government influence, and I really don't know if we want to go there.
All right.
The Men in Black.
The Men in Black. And the third one?
And the third one is Dead on Reality.
Dead on Reality. There is
that one and the last one where they're more amorphous.
Yes.
That's showing them in their developmental stage, their cocoon stage. So that would be like
no kidding. So in other words, then the one on the bottom would be the cocoon stage. The one just above it would be evolved from.
And that's what they look like. And they're extremely quick. What I like about this kid, if I can say his name, Kenny, that put it on there, boy, he did that well. It's
Kenny Young.
That's just about as close as I've seen anybody draw them.
All right. Kenny Young says, I have attached a picture that I quickly drew of the shadow person I've seen. The shadow person had longer arms and legs than a normal person, was about 4 feet in height.
4 to 5 feet max.
Was hard to get an exact size of the shadow person because I ran across the street really fast. Don't blame you, Kenny.
Move quick.
Yeah.
See, that's why as our metabolism increases, our heightened awareness brings them into the normal awareness screen of perception, where we're moving, like, say, at the speed of sound, but they're operating in a parallel dimension and in the dimension which we can access to heightened awareness, and they're moving, say, maybe Mach 4. They're going above the speed of sound. So they're going to appear extremely fast to us. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes all the sense in the world. Yes, of course. All right. Wildcard line, you're on the air with Thunder Strikes. Hello.
Oh, hi, Art. This is Karen from Iowa.
Hello, Karen.
And about 2 weeks ago, I had a dream that I was flying around and a guy was chasing me with a camera. That was a night dream.
Mm-hmm.
And I've also had visions that I'm standing there watching some people and they see me. But other than that, when I was a child, I used to speak to some being. I have not seen shadow people, but yet I have seen golden light beings that fly around the room.
Those are what we call the Tungashila, which literally means the ancestor spirit beings of benevolence, the guidance.
Okay.
What did
because
you call...
they were absolutely correct in everything they ever told me.
All right, what did you call them again, please? No, hold on, ma'am.
We call them Tungashila. It's an Indian word for all my relations, the spiritual beings.
So I guess they're the good ones.
Yep.
But
one thing I would like to say to this sister is, hon, just because you're dead doesn't make you smart. So they're there, but just because they're in that other world before they come back into a next incarnation, sometimes they can give you good advice, just like your parents can, and sometimes they're just dead wrong.
Oh, no, they warned me of a fire. They told me what I would be at every age that I asked them.
And
they became my best friends after my father's death. In fact, they warned me of that, too.
Yep.
All right, thank you very much, and take care. East of the Rockies, you're on there with Shadow Strikes. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Thunder Strikes. Shadow Strikes. I've got Shadow on my mind, my God. Yeah, good morning, sir. Where are you?
Down on Cape Cod.
Cape Cod.
Wow.
Yes. And I've seen them 5 times since 1981.
You have?
All straight on.
All straight on.
Yes. And the common denominator of them is, to me, they're 2D. They don't have a third dimension.
You're correct. Because if they're in the parallel dimension, brother, what it is that's why they take on this flat, pasty-like, opaque background, and so no light comes through them. And so they are not in our third-dimensional reality.
Black, yeah, he said blacker than black.
Yeah,
right.
Can I briefly just describe them? I've got it written down.
Yes, you may.
I was just doing a little hike in the woods, and there's all kind of broken branches and stuff like that, and I'm walking along, and the branches are breaking when I walk, but I had a sensation of somebody being near me. And I looked to my right, and about 30 feet away, there was this thing, and every time I moved, it kind of aggressively moved too. And
when you stopped, did it stop?
Yes.
Okay, that's frequently also referred to as the shadow stalker. In the forest, and if you were around a lot of trees,
yes,
there are protector spirits that protect the elementals. And those are not harmful. They're very similar to these beings.
Mm-hmm.
But if you move, they move. If you stop, they stop. If you turn around, they turn around.
Yeah,
they're mimers. They're mimickers.
Yeah. Every single time, huh?
Yep. And but the only thing I noticed in particular, I thought I was going to get robbed or something at first.
Mm-hmm.
But when it moved, it didn't make the branches crack.
That's correct, because it's one with the forest.
Okay, and then the second one I saw in the car, and it had an angular form. That was in 1992.
Uh-huh.
It was somewhat human form, but it was like angular.
Yeah. Well, if you remember at the beginning of the show, I said to Art that frequently they take on this triangular type of shape.
Oh, boy. I didn't hear that. I missed that.
That I don't want to use this image because I don't want to lead anybody to it. People are so easily led in the mind that, like you see Count Dracula and his coach, or the vampire type thing. And since we've used that word, maybe unfortunately parasitic would probably be better than vampiristic, but they have a sort of if you look at the one that's on the screen on the computer, that's much more accurate. But where you see the fast movement, and because of the extended length of the arms and the legs and the shortness of the mid-torso, if you catch it as them going away from you, if you understand anything with geometry, it's going to create a triangular or sort of a triangle over a parallelogram.
I was an aerospace engineer. That's why I was so fascinated about that second one. The third one was, it was almost a tentacle thing that went through the trees.
Did it make any sound, like a whirring sound?
No.
Did you notice that?
And they don't seem to have any mass. You know, it's like it just went through the
that
trees.
That sounds like a wind nymph or a wind spirit.
What is that?
Well, you got to understand, if you were raised in the world I was raised in as a child, I learned that everything around me in nature was a part of me. And that even anything that we create in industry or technology, the computer is nothing but a projected image and technology of the way our basic inner brain mind functions. The brain's simply a transmitter-receiver station of the mind.
Yeah, well, I've always been close to animals and shellfishing.
And so we have an absolute interconnection, interdependence, and interreliability with all forms of all other things. It's a sacred law. And there are water, wind, earth, fire, and spirit energies that exist in the fourth dimension, and therefore they can become very, very present in our dimension. There's also those kinds of energies that exist in the fifth dimension, meaning primarily in dream time. And those dream beings can force you into a shadow dream. If you're in a shadow dream, it's like you're looking at yourself on a television set. You're not in contextual presence in the dream. When you have that kind of dream, you need to train yourself to wake up, go to the bathroom, go get a drink of water.
Right. Okay, can I just move on to number 5 real quick?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. As a matter of fact, I was sleeping, and I woke up. My dog was kind of panting or something, and I woke up, and I sat up and walking. Well, it darted at me at first. But what was funny was my dog was sitting there looking 30 degrees away from it, staring at the wall. You know, so it was like it was seeing it, but not in the same space I was. And as I looked at it, it came at me real quick and then slowed down. And, my religious belief, I said the Hail Mary in about 10 seconds. But
that didn't work. Go to the Jewish. Whatever works at those moments.
Yeah, but then it stopped and it sank right down through the floor.
Oh, gee.
Now that was definitely a shadow being, I think, from what you described. I mean, it's hard for me to say that sitting here, not being into full presence, but I know that I've studied them since I was 6 years old. My grandma taught me about them and what to do with them and how to engage with them and how to banish them, and then I learned about all the other kinds of entities and spirits that are in our world. We actually live in a very busy universe, but most people are just not aware of it.
Obviously.
You can't see them in normal awareness.
All right, so, again, of the photos we've got up there now, the drawings, number 3...
Yes, is really, really good. And actually number 4, too, but those are really... They're cocoon or Morpheus stage right before they are fully present. So see, the more they feed, the more they become like...
All right, but again, very quickly, because we're at the top of the hour, the top one is not so good, huh?
No, that's definitely what we call a Mali Manitou, which means a malevolent spirit.
All right, hold it right...
evil intention.
Hold it right...
Huge, dark, the blackest of black came towards me, and the weirdest thing was, the first thought I thought is, I can't believe this is Zorro. He looked just like Zorro, the shape.
Yep.
He had the cape and the hat, but he was just all black. And what happened to me was that he came towards me and he grabbed my neck. And he didn't push me down, I just laid down, and he had his hand, I guess, in my neck, and he was moving it around. And then he backed up, and then he just floated away. But what happened was...
Now, this was in 1985?
1985. And 3 or 4 days later, I got a lump in my throat. And then a month later, it was getting bigger. And so I had to go to the doctor. And they ended up telling me that I had a type of cancer in my thyroid. Now, it wasn't a cancer that would spread, but I had to have my thyroid taken out, and I'm on Synthroid now, for the rest of my life. But it was very weird, and I have such a big mouth, and in my family, they all just don't listen to me. But they all just think I'm nuts. But the thing is, I told everybody, I tell everybody all the weird things that happen to me, and they just laughed it off. But I've always known it was something, and the odd thing about this is that after that, it took me 10 years, but after that, I started thinking very differently about my life and what's going on and who we are.
Good.
And I changed my life. Now, I look back now and know in 1985 I was not doing well as a human. And it took me, well, 10 years, but I got rid of all the negativity in my life. I got rid of everything. And I also got some gifts, and one of them is crows. And they're...
The crows, the messenger of the sorcerer. They're the the ones that carry the messages back and forth between the worlds and the dimension. Crows are a very sacred animal.
Yeah,
Crow, raven.
Yeah, the ravens are the crows. They warn me when something's coming up, and they warn me by crowing and yelling. And I figured out, where it's going to be coming from, north, south, east, or west. Each one means male, female, physical, and spiritual. But I hope I'm doing it right with them. And they never fail. They never fail. And it's like the other day, there was one screaming at me, and I was in such a hurry. I told him to shut up.
Then you must be doing right then.
I don't know.
Like, and by the way, if you notice, your description matches the second photograph.
Which one?
Very much like a Zorro photograph.
The second photograph on the website.
All right, I'm not online, so I can't see it. But really,
and that's one of the. That's not really a shadow being as we're using it on the broadcast tonight, honey. It's more of the Men in Black, and that program began in 1964. It's got a connection into the whole remote viewing piece. I really don't want to go there. It's
gotcha. All right, listen.
Bell show, and we're dealing with just the shadow beams, but that's what happened.
All right, let's
Men in Black.
Okay, Thunder, let's have you reload. We've got more photos. And we have got, I'll tell you, the last photo in the series is I don't like at all. So let us begin from just below. You'll see the new one on there. The one that you said looked surprised, right?
Yeah.
All right. If you've reloaded, look at the one just below that. Do you see it?
Vicky Trout?
Vicky Trout's, yes.
Wow.
What do you say to that one?
Again, you got to realize that it's, notice the similarity to, I think, number 3. I'm going to keep in my mind what the numbers are now.
Yes, sir.
That it's very, very similar to number 3. Again, however, if you notice how this one's got a tempting or a tantalizing type of a presence in the lady's visual.
Yes.
In her perception. And when they do that, they're trying to approach. If I said to you that misery loves company... Would that make sense?
No. Listen, it does make sense. They're trying to approach, so they would take on a non-threatening or even inviting form.
And like she says, they were full of mischief, but clearly evil.
All right, the one below this we're trying to do. We're doing all this too fast, but Buck.
Oh,
what in the world?
That one put chills through my spine.
What is that one? What in heaven's name is that?
You're back up to like the top. That's another one of the Mahate Manitus. It's if I said to you, have you heard of Alibaba and the 40 Thieves? There are 40 denizens of the dark. It's a pretty well-known thing all over the world that are like the minions of Satan, the devil. I don't like those names.
Yeah, nevertheless, this one does not look good at all.
No, it doesn't, and it's got an extremely malevolent presence, but it's a stalker.
A stalker? Yeah, it looks like a stalker.
And
all right.
If those come, you need to get some help.
I hear you. Help.
Demonic help.
All right, Thomas's is next down. It's a pretty big one, and
excuse me.
That's quite all right.
That's just a dark force entity. I mean, that's a disincarnate spirit that's just plain pure and evil. The shadowing under the eyes, especially if the eyes had a reddish or a greenish hue to them.
Yes.
You're talking about an evil person.
Okay.
This could be somebody like, say, Jeffrey Dahmer that decides to come back in and...
You're kidding.
Pay a visit. No, I wished I were, but I'm not.
All right. One more down.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's what I said, too.
That's like number 1. Again, it's dealing with one of those Manitus.
That's a bad one, huh?
Yeah, and if you notice, she says she sees him after rainstorms or bad weather. That a lightning and electrical discharge, they're drawn to that. See, it helps them become more present.
Huh.
So they can, again, they can feed. I maybe shouldn't have used the word vampire because I really don't want people to take off in that direction too heavily, but they're parasites.
Parasites.
And of course, what's interesting is the number of different pictures we have on here of different energies that do exist and can come over into our invention and be very present. I find that very intriguing.
All right. Let's see if we can do this quickly. First-time caller line, you're on the air with Thunder Strikes. Hello. Hello there.
Art.
Yes.
Yes, and good evening, Thunder Strikes.
Hello.
I am tickled to death that you are on. For the last several nights, I've been listening to Art and been screaming at the computer here, leave our shadow people alone. There are shadow people, and then you, this evening, have also made it clear that there are other things that can be seen that are not malevolent.
Absolutely. In fact, they're extremely benevolent.
Yes.
Without the elemental spirits and the wind spirits and so forth, we would not have the beauty of nature and Mother Earth as we do.
Yeah, but the problem here, both of you, is I agree. There probably are some wonderful ones out there. But if the average citizen had a gun that would kill whatever entity they saw dead, we'd have nothing but dead entities, good and bad. Yep. I mean, people are so frightened.
Out of fear.
Out of fear.
Well, that's the thing, though. That's why I'm glad he's making a distinction, because it is important for people to not automatically be afraid.
I agree, because, see, you got to realize fear, like I said before, fear is the unknown. Do something about it, make it known. Go right towards the very thing you fear the most.
Well, it's kind of interesting if you look at what people have sent us in terms of pictures. Do you have a computer, ma'am?
Yes, I do, but I had to go offline in order to use the phone. So I saw the first 4, but I've been listening.
All right, well, then know this. I would say right now it's about 60-40 as we've looked at these, bad to good.
You got it. I would say the same thing.
Yes, and unfortunately, our babies are killing babies.
Yep.
There's a great deal of evil, and I have a lot of young people that come to me and just talk to me. They just all of a sudden open up. And they're unhappy. They have low self-esteem. They are frightened for the world in general. They're frightened for themselves.
Yep.
And when Art had the Hopi elders on, one of the grandmothers said, the role of the mothers in any society is to nurture and pray for the children. But in today's society, the mothers are working. They're not at home. They are not taking care of this.
Everybody, hold it. Everybody, hold on. We're at the bottom of the hour. I must abide by the clock. This is Coast to Coast AM. I'm Art Bell. My guest is Thunder Strikes.
When you see me in the middle of the night cleaning the place, so I was done with my job, and I decided I would spend some time trying to stop the world, not do, meditate, what have you. And I sat there and I just looked in the mirrors that surround the whole place until basically, for lack of better words, the world fell away. And up out of the distance came a creature that I could only really describe as a 6-foot black cricket would be the best way I could describe this creature. And Art talked earlier about creatures who beguile and want you to come with them or do something.
They're enticing.
This creature wanted me to come with him into this strange landscape, this nothingness.
Yep.
But what was coming from the distance off to the side was something dark and menacing.
You bet.
This frightened me, and I snapped out of it.
So what was all that?
You had a good experience. But you learned something very, very valuable. Never believe anything. Question everything. Knowledge is something that's sacred because if it works.
Well, what would have happened had he gone?
You might not have returned.
Okay. I'm trying to move as quickly as I can. On the international line, you're on the air. Where are you calling from, please?
Hi, I'm from Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia? Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Well, hello and welcome.
Yes, hello.
Hi, how are you? I was just wondering what you would say to somebody who wanted to see shadow people.
That wanted to see them?
Yeah, like, how would I be able to see them?
I don't know. That's something that I would request.
Young lady, just before you go on, Thunder, young lady, how old are you?
27.
27, really? So you must be there with your husband stationed, or are you stationed over there?
No. I'm a Saudi.
Ah,
you're a Saudi.
Well, in your people's tradition, you've heard of the jinn, right?
Yeah.
Okay. The jinn are there are many classifications of jinn. From what I understand from a friend of mine that's a practitioner in your people's world, in your people's way, they say they have 72 different varieties or variations of the jinn, one of which would be what we're now discussing, which is the shadow beings or the shadow people.
Oh, I see.
But I wouldn't go
it's in
out
our
looking
religion
for
also.
them. I wouldn't go out looking for them.
Your English is absolutely impeccable.
Very.
How did your English get to be so good?
Thank you. I used to live in the States, so.
Uh-huh.
That'll do it.
She speaks better English than I do, Art.
I
speak kind of Texan, you know.
So you really want to see these beings?
No. No, not really. I'm just interested. It sounds really, I don't know, intriguing.
It's intriguing, huh? But don't be lured by it, because really they're not of any benefit to us.
I know. I'd probably be scared.
I'm sure you would.
I saw them.
Well, you know, if you get scared enough, maybe they will. I mean, they're drawn to that fear.
Well, remember what was said earlier, ma'am, and that is that they feed on that fear. So if you
I understand that.
If you do see one, you'll be giving it snacks.
That's right. You know, and that's not something I'd recommend. Definitely not.
Well, listen, you be sure and call me again, will you?
Okay, I will.
All right.
I'm a long-time listener.
Well,
great.
Incredible. All right. Thank you very much, and take care. Whew.
Well, that was refreshing.
Yeah, east of the Rockies, you're on the air with Thunderous Strikes. Good morning.
Hello.
Hello there.
Hi, this is Doug from Nashville, Tennessee.
Hello, Doug.
I had two questions. One is, you know, on your show, you have talked about rods.
Yes.
And I was just wondering if Thunder could you might explain it briefly if he's not familiar.
Oh, I will. Thank you for asking the question.
Put that in perspective. And the second one was really, I'm going to ask a similar question to the previous caller, but more generally, I've always wanted to have some conscious experience of something in the, you know, otherworldly or some evidence of something spiritual. And I was just wondering if you could advise how one might cultivate that kind of experience, not necessarily negative.
No, not at all. If you pick up a copy of my book, Song of the Deer, A Sundance Journey. Sundance Journey.
I haven't even asked. No, slow down. Hold on. Yeah. The name of your book, I didn't even know you had one. I'm sorry. What is it?
Song of the Deer.
Song of the Deer.
It's put out by Jaguar Books, and they can pick it up in a local bookstore or Amazon.com, or they can email JAGPUB, JAGPUB, at AOL.com, or they can call toll-free 877.
Whoa. Okay. Is that your email address?
No, that's the email of Jaguar Books.
JAGPUB at AOL.com?
Right.
All right.
And if they want to get a hold of me, they can get a hold of me at Gunny at keepandbeararms.com. That's keepandbeararms.com.
Another side of you, huh, Gunny?
I'm the president of keepandbeararms.com. It's the largest gun owner's homepage on the internet.
Oh, the things we learn as the program comes on.
Yeah.
And
I'm a very avid Second Amendment.
And good for you. And the 800 number?
And the 800 number for the publisher is 877-855-055.
That's not enough. That's not enough numbers. 877-855-0055. 0055. Right. Okay, I've got it. That should
or they can reach me at deertribe.org on the webpage.
Deertribe.org?
Yes.
Holy smokes! You've got more conduits electronically to get to you than I do.
But I don't normally respond to any of them. Yeah, just don't Gunny at Keep It Bear Arms, because I'm very, like I said, pro-Second Amendment and very proactive with our
good for you.
Preservation of our Constitution, for crying out loud. But
yes,
that's a whole other page of my life.
Indeed. West of the Rockies, you're on the air with Thunder Strikes. Hello.
Hello. Hello?
Yes, hello?
Hi, this is Christine from Albany, California.
Yes.
And thank you both for a fabulous show, and good morning.
Good morning.
I haven't seen one of these things, but I've felt entities around me, good entities, probably for the last 11, 12 years.
And how old are you now, ma'am?
I'm 52. My boyfriend passed away in 99. I feel him.
There you go.
His kitty passed away. I felt her. You mentioned the eye on the top of the head.
Yeah.
Ever since
the third eye.
Yeah. Well, no, on the very top of the head.
That's called the dream eye or the fifth eye.
Right. Ever since he passed away, I feel tingling up there.
Yes, you would.
Oh, when I meditate.
Anywhere from 3 to 7 years after a passing, we feel that contact through, our fifth eye, and especially in our dream time, and those are called our memories.
No, it's when I meditate, when I say prayers before meals, it's on and off all during the day.
Definitely.
What?
Remember, you've got 2 dream times, hon. You've got the dream time here in the third dimension when you're awake, like we are right now, hopefully.
Right.
And then
this is more of a dream than
the dream time at night and when you're asleep.
Okay, good.
And they do overlap each other.
Okay. Thank you both very much for a great show.
Well, thank you.
I want to turn the house over to somebody and have it have some kind of dimensional problem.
No, it doesn't sound that way. Thank you very much. All right, 2 things, Thunder, that we've got to cover. One, she just kind of touched on. So many people have said that they view some of these beings as death coming to get you or coming to escort you. One form of them does do that?
Yes, but that is the entity that we call Tuala Nani. And by the way, I will not say that word again due to stalking death. And it literally tries to rob your spirit personality or steal it as it goes back to the great round. There have been thousands of documented instances all over the world by different names of this entity. And it is the personification of evil. The Christians call it Satan, the devil, which is spelled backwards. And by the way, Satan is nothing but Natus, which is nature, or in the Gaelic language, spelled backwards. It's the opposite of life. It's a predatory, malevolent death. It's not a death of one's choosing. It's a total shock or an accidental death.
Gotcha. All right.
If that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Too well, I'm afraid. All right. The other thing